As the presidential debates continue with Biden running against Trump, this October we will be discussing youth in politics. So, to begin, let's just each give a quick introduction of ourselves. My name is Christina. I am in 11th grade this year. I'm a junior and I go to Beckman High School.
I'm Thomas. I'm a senior at Beckman High School.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm a junior at Burbank High School.
I'm Alan, and I'm a senior at Portola High School.
My name is Jonathan, and I'm a junior at North Hollywood High School.
I'm Grace, and I'm a junior at Portola High School.
I'm Sabrina, and I'm a sophomore at St. Margaret's Episcopal School.
I'm Isabel, and I'm a junior at OSHA.
I'm Serena Wren, and I'm an 8th grader in Orchard Hills School.
How do you stay updated on current events? For example, what platforms do you usually use to get news?
For me, I feel like I mostly use social media. Like I do occasionally look at like news sites like CNN or LA Times, but I feel like social media is what keeps me the most up to date.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Instagram is a very easy way for me to quickly get information about what's currently happening. And especially sometimes scrolling through stories, people post like their political opinions and you can kind of see what other people believe in.
You know, I use like apps for news and TMZ, serious news websites. They sometimes are not reporting the truth. They have like perspectives on things. But for TMZ, it's like short videos of the real events.
Yeah, I also use social media, like mentioned before. Sometimes we'll have the news on. I'm in the journalism class at school, so sometimes we'll talk about like current events and I'll get news from maybe like my classmates that I haven't heard before.
At school, I have journalism too, and I think that's a really good class for having our own perspectives on things, develop your own understanding.
Likewise, I mostly get most of my news from my friends, usually through discussion on Discord at night.
I also get it from like other people, like either my friends will talk about it, but I also like to try not to rely too much on like other like people's information, like because I feel like it's kind of really extremely biased.
How I stay updated usually is on Instagram, and then from my peers I can see what they share, and then I look over it and develop my own opinion.
Similar to you guys, I usually turn on the TV first thing in the morning, and it's usually KTLA. For me, apps sort of are like better for me to understand the news. I sort of don't rely on social media because like it's the same news article that's on people's stories sometimes.
For me, I personally use Instagram, but I think that it's important that we all fact check because fake news can spread really quickly on social media. So it's important that we check different resources or real news outlets.
Moving on to our second question, how can young people like us impact politics today?
We can definitely impact politics, but for now, I think what we can do is to just learn from people that are more experienced than us and try to have our own perspective on things.
I think no one is too young to get into politics or like at least have an awareness of it. I think waiting is, I guess, a fatal mistake for young people, especially. Issues like climate change and systemic racism are only going to get worse if we don't do anything.
I think that the youth in the US make up a decent part of the population, and it's important that we use our voice, and if you're 18 then it's important to vote because we're the future generation and it's important that we have a judgment.
The younger generation plays a really big part in politics. I feel like now there's a lot of like platforms for younger people to become involved in politics. Like online, there's a lot of ways to get involved.
I think our potential to influence others around us is more than what our votes can do.
Also, I feel like even if we don't exactly get directly involved, like just by like educating ourselves or maybe just looking into something can like do a lot. Like, seeing my like other people like upload things like that by itself has like kind of inspired me to like in my own time go check out the news.
Yeah, I really agree with like everything everyone said about social media because I feel like it's really accessible to people our age, and I feel like the majority of people who use it are pretty young. And also, I would say that it not only educates yourself, but it also educates others. It's also a good idea to maybe like educate your family or your parents, because I feel like sometimes they might not really know much about what's going on in the current world. And it's nice to just hear it from someone close to you. I think you can pre-register to vote by the time you're 16. So I feel like being active in that area is really important to in the future, especially.
Young people can get involved in politics, just like how a media club where some of us are writing about it. And then in some way, if other people see it, that is kind of impacting their opinion. So yeah, there are multiple ways to use what we're passionate about to contribute to society.
Regarding politics, how regularly does politics usually come up in your conversation with peers?
I think sometimes with my close friends, like we can talk about politics. If it's with like a larger group of people or someone that I don't know, I usually avoid it. I'm still like really afraid to like share with other people. So yeah, so I usually just don't talk about it because it will start like a really big argument.
I think it's been coming up in like a lot of my conversation recently because of the presidential debates, and because like the community that I'm surrounded with is mostly like Democratic. Peers around me are not really like afraid to bring it up in a sense.
Compared to last year, I think that it has become more of an open conversation, especially because everyone is more outspoken on social media. But my friends and I have been discussing the debates and our favorite moments and like funny moments too.
Yeah, I feel like generally in conversations for me, when other people discuss politics, I usually kind of just try to stay out of the conversation, or I guess not voice my opinion when it's a discussion about politics, because I feel like a lot of the times we consider politics as a sensitive subject and topic to discuss. For me, sometimes just avoiding it could reduce the amount of arguments or heat.
Yeah, politics is definitely a pretty touchy subject, and I think it really depends on who I'm surrounded with. I feel like most of my close friends, we share very similar beliefs, so, especially like right now, like with all the presidential debates going on, we've been discussing those, but I don't think like to a very deep extent. Some of my friends, I have some friends who are a lot more involved in the political field, and they're a lot more interested in that subject, so it's very interesting and almost educational to just listen in on someone with that kind of experience and a different perspective.
Mine, to like connect to I think what Isabella said, is I have like different groups of friends who talk about things. Like some friends like are like really educated and like extremely like have their own like strong opinions, and then I have friends who like don't know anything and they don't really watch any of the news. And the thing is, like, it's not really that I hang out with like a certain group of friends. It's kind of like very mixed. So yeah, it kind of depends on who I'm with, and even how I am with people who have their strong opinions or don't. Like, I don't really voice out my opinions, because even though I did say I was getting educated, like I'm kind of just starting to, and I don't really know that like much to have my own opinion.
I myself am not too knowledgeable about politics at the moment, but I find it fun to debate with my friends.
Same with me. So I'm not that educated about it right now, and I'm still trying to become more knowledgeable. So when my peers are talking about it, I kind of just listen. But I do notice that sometimes they are really biased, but I did like to listen.
Yeah, discussing politics is pretty interesting sometimes, but when you're discussing politics and if it's getting heated or you are in a disagreement with your peer, your friend, or whoever you're discussing it with, how do you voice your opinion while trying to still be respectful?
Tell them what you believe in, and then you tell them why you believe in it. And then when they're telling you what they believe in, then you listen. You don't just cut them off. You don't directly tell them what you believe in. You just, you tell them some indication of what you believe in, and then they'll know. So they will not get that triggered.
I think that's important to acknowledge the other person's opinion rather than trying to dominate them with your opinion, and just know that everyone can express your own beliefs and understand each other, and that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and it doesn't make them wrong for having a different view than you do.
I agree that when having a conversation, even if you disagree, that you should be somewhat respectful. I think I saw the debates, the presidential debate, and a lot of the times they just cut each other off and were just like, "You're wrong." And then when I saw that, I was thinking that rather than just saying that, they should at least add some more of their opinions and add more facts rather than just saying, "Oh, you're wrong."
I think just like keeping in mind that everyone has different opinions, and it's like really about perspective, I guess. And you don't always need to like understand or agree with the other person, but it's important to accept that someone can be different than you.
Like as Grace mentioned, we like need to acknowledge that everyone grows up in different backgrounds and households, and like they have like different beliefs.
Realizing that whatever you say in disagreement like will not convince them to change their mind. They usually is not the case. Like if just disagreeing like with arguing with them or stating your point really won't change anything. It really has like no effect at all. It's kind of just like making your relationship worse.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I feel like when you're trying to tell someone a fact about something, usually they only listen if that fact supports their case. And if it doesn't, they kind of just are kind of stubborn about their beliefs and they just hold on more tightly to their opinions. Have any of you guys ever been able to participate in any political events such as marches, campaigns, or anything to do with politics? And if so, how was your experience?
I'm planning on attending a city council meeting this month for a journalism assignment. So I think I'm looking forward to it because I think they'll be talking about COVID related things and other important issues currently. And I've never really been to a meeting like that before, so I think it's a good step to kind of become more aware of my political environment that I'm currently in.
We had a conversation about like the relationship between China and Taiwan. And it went pretty well because both sides have their own perspective on things. And then we listened to the other side. We came to like the agreement that like we should all support each other.
I personally have never been to a political event or march, but I did want to, but I thought that because of the coronavirus, I didn't think that it would be a worthwhile decision to make. However, I think that it's important that people use their voices to express their opinions and be heard.
I've been involved for like almost 5 or 6 months. Putting myself in these organizations really gives me a lot of perspective.
What is your perspective on the field of politics? For example, would getting involved in politics be on your future career list? And if it's not, what about politics doesn't seem appealing to you?
For like me personally, it's not that appealing for me on the career list because I feel like politics includes a lot of like having your own standpoint and like confidence in leadership and teamwork and kind of like being open-minded, and it just like there's so much management involved in it.
Like Sabrina, I think like it's not really like getting involved with politics is not really on my career list because like normally when I like approach an issue or an idea or something, I'm not like very strong on my stance. I'm normally like, oh, I could like see this side, but I could also like see this side. Even if it's not like related to your career, it should be something that everyone should be involved in, because being involved in politics is like looking at the world around us and what's happening and placing us in the world. So I think that's important.
I think that politics are important, but I feel as if it can tear people apart rather than bring them together. And for me personally, it's not as appealing because of the stress that it would bring. And I think that it's a bit too much heat to handle.
I think that politics, it can go wrong in a lot of ways if you're very involved. But I also think that really any career will somehow be involved in politics. Like, I could be a singer or an artist, and somehow politics will still just come up at some point. So I do think it's important to stay educated, but because I'm also just always very iffy about things and just in between, so I don't think politics is something I'm very intrigued about too.
As well as how to determine whether or not certain news is true, like are true or not, because that class, like, it tells you the history sort of like news and journalism. So you learn the concepts which you need to like.
Yeah, I feel like after watching a few short clips of the presidential debate, I felt like politics is very complicated and it is very heated. So I definitely agree with what everyone else said before. And speaking of the presidential debate, this year, because of the outbreak of COVID-19, they announced for the next debate to be held virtually. What are your thoughts on a virtual debate compared to a debate in real life?
It's definitely the safer approach, and I feel like right now the priority is like health and just trying to keep everyone like okay and safe. So I do think that that's the way it should be done, and I think I agree with it, but I definitely think there can be a lot more consequences to it than if it was held in real life.
I honestly think that it should have been virtual in the first place, mainly because of safety and since political figures set an example for the rest of the nation, and if they practice social distancing, it would set a good example and everyone would follow.
I'm actually not sure because I feel like obviously being online is much more safer, and I feel like it could possibly be more chaotic and difficult to organize, but at the same time, I feel like over video call, like there's like a mute feature, and I feel like there's just like a chat feature too. So I feel like it could also be like a little more orderly. I think it honestly depends on the nature of who's going to be debating.
Yeah, I think there are like both sides to the argument that I feel like if it's held virtually, sometimes it looks like the people debating are kind of less serious in a way because they're not like standing like in front of each other and like trying to talk while they're just like sitting on separate screens. So it kind of feels a little less serious. But I do think that because of COVID, for health reasons, I think it is probably a good idea to move the debate online